As you can imagine, fear is something that holds back a lot of traders. For many of us, it is the thing that stops us from getting started in the first place. And for the small percentage of us that are able to get started, unfortunately, it is that thing that stops us from pushing past those initial hurdles, and it's the thing that pretty much haunts us day in and day out of the markets, seemingly every time we open a price chart. Well, today, I'm going to give you one simple question that you can ask yourself that will help you defeat those fears. Hey guys, Akil Stokes here, and welcome back to another episode of the Trading Coach Podcast. We are back on video, so if you want to enjoy the video experience, in today's video, we're probably going to look at a few charts, not price charts, but like charts and graphs of numbers and stuff. You can do so in two places that I know of. One is going to be the YouTube, the other is going to be the Spotify. Now, if you've followed me for any amount of time now, then you already know my belief on trading. Trading is something that is simple, but unfortunately, it is far from being easy. It's simple because at its core, making money in the markets really comes down to one single thing, and that is finding or creating a system or strategy that has an edge. And all an edge is, right, that's the trading term we use. All the edge is, or an edge is a statistical advantage that we have, or our system or strategy has, over the market. So think about it like a casino, right? There's plenty of casino games out there. We can take blackjack as an example, or even craps or roulette, whatever it is. In every single casino game, the casino has the edge, meaning that the casino, the game, has more ways to win, or a higher percentage of winning than the player does. So as long as the casino can keep people playing, the odds will work in their favor, even if the big winner comes around every once in a while. As traders, our job is to do the exact same thing. Just instead of a casino game, we are doing it with a trading strategy. Now, the good news is this, because a lot of people are intimidated by trading strategies. What's the perfect strategy? What's the best strategy? Do I use this? Do I do that? Well, honestly, it doesn't really matter, right? There are many strategies and many kind of different versions of strategies that you can use, tweak, and create that have an edge over the market. And the cool thing about being around now in the age of the internet is that most of them are readily available for you to find and discover. But as you probably guessed, there's a little bit more to that, right? Just because trading is simple, the formula to success, doesn't mean that it's easy. Because even if you can get past all of the demons in our head about needing the perfect strategy and needing a 1,000% return every day in the markets to be a successful trader, or a 1,000% win rate, even if you can get through those aspects and find a strategy that works, you still got to execute it in the market day in and day out consistently without error. And that's pretty damn hard. Now, the question is, why is that so hard? Well, hop in front of a price chart with real money and then, get back to me on that. You'll see exactly why it's hard. But in the meantime, while you're listening to that, because it wouldn't make sense to pause this for 6 months until you learn how to trade and get on a price chart and then finally figure out how to respond to me, let's put it like this. It is hard because we are human. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I'm talking about our emotions. And not to turn this into a big history lesson on caveman brain and the evolution of humans from kind of where we're at, being chased by dinosaurs and whatnot. We weren't really around by dinosaurs, you get what I'm saying, to where we're at now. But once upon a time, survival was a lot more difficult than it was today, despite the world seemingly going to shreds, but that's another story for another time. Pretty much, emotion, specifically the emotion of fear, was very useful, right? It helped us react quickly to danger without wasting time like contemplating, hey, saber-toothed tiger, should I run? Should I not run? We just ran. Now, while we're on that subject, I'm going to pause for a little bit of a funny story, and it's my podcast, so I can do what I want. But speaking of like danger and fear and not contemplating stuff, I remember when my wife and I were on my first, it had to be our first date. I think our first or like second date in college, and we're coming back from a party or whatnot. And I got 3 or 4 of my friends walking ahead, and I'm back hanging with her, trying to get to know her a little bit. And my friends decided to play a mean game on moi. So to give you a little bit of background, I'm from a city that is known for violence, unfortunately. So I was brought up in an environment where, we heard a lot of gunshots. And when you hear gunshots, you run. And if you see people running, you run. And you don't waste time trying to figure out why you are running, because you may not make it if you do. So you just run, and then you find out later what you were running from. So my friends who are from the same place as me know that about me. So they have like all these balloons from the party that we were going through or coming from, and they just start popping them. Pop, 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 pop. And without knowing it, I just take off and start running. I'm hauling it. And guess who was left behind? The girlfriend. Now, obviously it worked out because I'm happily married now, but it probably wasn't the best impression. But it goes to prove you, it was in my DNA to not think about running. It was just a natural reaction to, I hear loud noises in a short distribution. Let me get the heck out of there, and I will figure out what happened later. Another part of that story was another party with my sister, and we were at a bar, and same thing. Something happened. Everyone started running. I started running. My wife was running next to me, and I said, you know what? This is when I knew she was the one. She didn't think. She didn't ask. She was right next to me, running and jumping over cars for safety. A true love story. Now, I say this because it's important to understand that as humans, and specifically as human traders, not the other type of traders, our job is not to eliminate fear. I've tried that for a very long time in trading and failed miserably. Because it's really impossible. That would mean pretty much trying to rewire something that is ingrained in us for our own survival. It's pointless. Instead, our job should be to learn how to manage fear. And this was something I learned from Denise Scholl as well, where she said, hey, as a human being, we can't eliminate emotions. We just have to learn how to manage them, or learn how to put ourselves in a situation where we don't negatively react to them. If we try to get rid of them, it's going to have the opposite effect. It's the same thing, another young Akil story, right? I was not good with showing emotions. I was not good with letting out anger. So instead, I would fight that anger, and it would build inside of me, and then would come out in a very non-productive way. I did this in my trading as well, where I would fight these emotions. I would not give in to greed, not give in to revenge trading, and I would not accept that they were there. And then all of a sudden, boom, I'd have one bad trade, and I would emotionally explode, and it would lead to just like a snowball effect of bad trades that would ultimately blow my account. So I would have these stretches of 4 or 5 months of successful trading, and then I'd blow it all in a week and have to start over. And it was this horrible doom loop, I guess you can call it. The point is, if we try to fight it, we'll make it worse. So our job is to not fight it, rather to manage it, rather to accept it, rather to recognize it, and to really take a step back, a roll back in your chair, and analyze it. You see, unlike the caveman days where you're running from saber-toothed tigers, trading isn't a life or death situation unless you're one of those traders that took out a loan from some mafia person and you're betting it all on the euro dollar to go bullish, and it's not going bullish and you're getting scared. And maybe that is a life or death situation, but you probably shouldn't have put yourself in that situation in the first place. The point is, right, although we have to think fast in the market, we don't have to think as fast as the caveman running from the beast, meaning we have time to step back, we have time to analyze, we have time to contemplate the situation and try to make the best decision possible. Now, with that being said, we also don't want to overanalyze the situation, because then we'll get into the whole paralysis analysis thing where we get to the chart and we're just frozen and we do nothing. So, what I discovered is that there is one single trading question that can change everything as far as your perspective. So, whenever you feel fearful in the market, I want you to ask yourself this question. Right? You can write it down on your wall, you can tattoo it on your arm and look at it, whatever you got to do, whatever your thing is. But the question is this: what am I actually afraid of? Right? So instead of focusing on the feeling itself, the emotion fear, focus on the consequences behind the fear, right? You want to break it down. You want to challenge it. And you want to ask yourself, is this fear actually worth fearing? Now, I asked this question on the YouTube community tab, and thank you guys who always support that tab and answer my wild poll questions. They're very entertaining, so I love doing them, and the feedback you guys said you love doing them as well, or answering them as well. And I wanted to share three common fears that you guys mentioned. And then walk through them with the same thing of asking ourselves that question, what am I actually afraid of? And show you how really you can manage the situation by doing so. Now, fear number one, and this isn't in any particular order, just the order that I read it in, but I'm pretty sure all of you guys can relate. The fear of losing money, right? So ask yourself this: how much money will I actually lose if this trade doesn't go in my favor? Because here's the thing, if you're trading with proper risk management, that loss should already be defined. Before you ever enter the trade, you should know exactly how much is at risk. You should know exactly how much you can lose, and you should make peace and be comfortable with, hey, I could potentially lose this amount, right? The risk should already be acceptable. It should already be part of the plan. So if that's the case, what are you afraid of, right? You already know the answer, and if it was something that was worth fearing, you probably would have never pressed buy or sell in the first place to put you in that situation, right? Fear number two, the fear of missing out. Good old FOMO. I don't know why I did the Trump dance, but FOMO, right? Ask yourself this: what am I actually missing out on? Because in your mind, we are missing out on the greatest trading opportunity ever, and it will never come again. And this is the last chance. And if I don't catch it like all my friends, I'll never make money and I'll be a failure. Yeah, take it from someone who's been in the game for 20 years now, right? Everything repeats, right? I've traded through like 15 different crashes, not that many, but I've traded through many crashes. At the very beginning of my career, I said, oh my gosh, I missed this crash. Every stock is cheap. I'll never have a chance to buy it again. And then 6 years later, the exact same thing happened. And then like 8 years later, the exact same thing happened, right? There will always be another opportunity. So although it does seem like we're missing out, now in present time, we're not really missing out. Plus, I would say this to add on top of it, right? If you take action to avoid missing out, that is a negative action because you're not following the rules of your trading plan. If you believe in process over outcome, like we preach and teach over at tier1trading.com, then the process, right, taking 100% good trades should be the thing that brings you joy. So entering a trade too early should actually be a negative, right? So by not giving in the FOMO, by waiting for your signal, you're actually, instead of missing out on a good trade, you're actually avoiding a bad trade. And if your goal is to become a consistently profitable trader, avoiding those bad trades is the way that you actually win, right? Fear number three, boom, the fear of being wrong. Ego, right? Ask yourself this question: what happens if I'm wrong, right? If I take a trade and my prediction is that I say it's going to go bullish, and I take the trade and it goes bearish, and I was wrong, what actually happens? Well, two things. Number one, you'll probably lose some money, right? We talked about that in the first fear. If your risk is managed properly, if you've already accepted that risk before ever taking the trade, then it's already accounted for. You shouldn't be upset or fearful of losing money. So no big deal. Another thing real quick on the money thing, one of my mentors told me when I was really young in the game, as a trader, we should, position size wise and risk wise, we should trade so small that a loss doesn't make us upset and a win doesn't make us happy. So if our position size is correct, it shouldn't be life changing. I shouldn't have a trade where my life is flipped upside down because I won. I shouldn't have a trade where I have to sell the house because I lost, right? A losing trade should be like, all right, well, that's 1% of the count. No big deal, right? And this is where that whole kind of risk spreadsheet that I showed you before comes into play. I don't have it in front of me, but I'll put up in the post editing. But if you are trading the correct position size, you give yourself the ability, right? Trading small, you give yourself the ability to lose. You can lose multiple times over and over and over and over and over again, and it won't really hurt you. When you're put in a position where you know you can lose and it doesn't really hurt you, you become better at managing those losses because you no longer have that emotional attachment to money, right? Think about it like if you're walking down the street with $5, right? And they're, five single dollar bills and you lose $2, right? You lost almost 50% of your money. You're probably upset, right? Because if all you had was $5 for the end of the week and you lost almost half of it, that is a massive amount. Now, what if you're walking around with $5,000? Do not walk around with $5,000. Probably not a smart idea. But if you were and you lost $2, you probably wouldn't even go back to get it. You'd be like, I could walk back and get it, but that's whatever, $2, no big deal. Someone will find it. It'll make them happy for the day. So you can see how when you're trading small, you loosen that emotional financial attachment, and you just don't care as much. And not caring in trading is really, really good, because when we care and we overly care, that's when we get all mental when we make mistakes. When we don't care, we just do the things that we're supposed to do, and that's how we become successful. I've told you this story many of times here on the podcast, as you would expect, as we're up to 1,300 episodes. But my trading career changed when I stopped caring. I hit that rock bottom point. I was done. I was so bad. I was never going to be good. So I just stopped worrying about the money, stopped worrying about success. I just traded, right? I just played the game. And I actually became really, really good doing that, because in playing the game free without a care, I just did the things that I was supposed to do. And lo and behold, when I did the things I was supposed to do, I collected the return that I expected to collect, and I made profit. It was a light bulb changing moment for me. Basically, I was trying too hard and sabotaging myself, and that's what doomed my trading account. When I stopped trying too hard and just followed the rules, I made money. You don't say, right? It was funny. I told my mentor about that. As soon as I reached the threshold where I was comfortable being accepting that I was a profitable trader, and I was like, dude, Jason, Todd, I just followed my rules and I had a good quarter and blah, blah, blah. They're like, you don't say, Akil. You don't say. And I'm like, yeah, you have been telling me that for a year and a half, haven't you? They're like, oh, me? Me? No, maybe I mentioned it once or twice, right? But sometimes we got to find, and not sometimes, often, we have to take those journeys of hardship by ourselves. Even if we have a guide with us, they can't hold our hand throughout the whole thing. We got to learn our own lessons. That's when they really stick. So that rock bottom was devastating, depressing, but the best moment in my trading career, because it was the turning point. Anyway, money shouldn't make you sad. We went over that before. The other part of losing a trade is your ego. Oh, your overly sensitive ego. I have to be a winner, because who cares? Who cares what your win percentage is, right? Not me. Your friends don't know anything about trading. They don't care. So who cares, right? Put your ego to the side and worry about money, right? You shouldn't feel bad about being wrong, because let's be real for a second. You're going to be wrong, and you're going to be wrong, right? I got a question on YouTube just before I hit the record button saying, hey, Akil, do you back test your strategies? I said, hell yeah, right? We don't know that our strategy has an edge until we back test it. He also asked about the difference between manual and auto back testing, and I would say that my advice is always to do manual back testing, especially in the beginning, because it's not just about acquiring the data, but it's about acquiring the feelings as well, right? As you backtest thousands and thousands of trades, you know what it's like to hit a hot streak and feel really, really good. You know what it's like to hit a down streak, a drawdown, and feel really, really bad. You know what it's like to feel really, really bad and be like, oh, I'm going to ditch this system, and then drag yourself out of it to new profits. There's a lot of confidence that could be deemed within that period. You also know stuff like your longest losing streak, your longest winning streak, your average win streak, your average losing streak. All the data you can deal with is in that backtesting process. And I may be going out on a limb here, but I would feel comfortable saying that there is no trader out there that has a 100% win percentage. At me if I'm wrong, but I feel very, very confident saying that. As confident as I feel saying the Sixers aren't going to beat the Boston Celtics in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Yeah, but that's another story. Anyway, the point is, you know you're a loser. Wait, sorry, phrased that wrong. You know that your system is a loser. No, take three. You know that your system will take losses because your numbers said it. Your numbers said that your system will lose. It can still be profitable. Don't get me wrong. It can still be very profitable, but it will lose. It may lose 30% of the time. It may lose 40% of the time. It may lose even 50% of the time or even more, and it can still be a profitable strategy. The point is, it is going to lose, and it is probably going to lose a lot relative to the amount of trades you're taking, obviously. So, if losing or being wrong is part of the system, and you lose and or you're wrong in real life, what's the big surprise? You knew what you were getting into. You knew it was going to happen. It's nothing against your ego. It is the strategy, right? Get over yourself. Anyway, so the next time you're in the market and you feel that hesitation, you feel that fear creeping in, and you feel that urge to either jump into a trade or out of a trade or even avoid a trade completely, hit that pause button for a second and ask yourself this one question. What am I really afraid of? Write it down if you have to. Put it on a sticky note. Tape it to your monitor. I don't care. Whatever puts it right in the forefront of your brain. But make it a part of your trading process, because the goal isn't to eliminate fear. I haven't thrown anything in a while. Fear. Oh, right into the dust corner. Sheesh. Sorry. The goal isn't to eliminate fear. It is to understand it and not let it control your decision making. So I hope you found this helpful. If you did, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, follow, share with another trader that might be struggling with this same thing. And as always, plan your trade, trade your plan, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Sorry, Mr. Bull.